Africa 24. This program is brought to you by the AFCFTA Secretariat.
Thank you for joining us on Africa 24 English for this new edition of the interview. Today to discuss the public and private sectors' challenges and opportunities in the building of regional and continental value chains, we welcome Mr. Adewale Adeniyi, Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Services. Mr. Adewale, welcome to Africa 24 English.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Nigeria is relatively open to trade, which in 2023 represented 26% of its GDP, according to the World Bank figures. However, the first trading partners of this African power were not African countries, but Western ones. Why is there so little trade at regional level, and how can this situation be remedied?
Well, this has been an issue that has been with us over the last few years. A number of reasons. We still believe, as vestiges of our colonial past, that perhaps our salvation lies with what we do with our former colonial masters. But it is becoming increasingly aware. We are becoming increasingly aware now that perhaps there is a lot that we can do with ourselves, starting with trade. We had a very rich history of trade. All our empires, the great empires, Ghana Empire, Mali Empire, Shongai empires, they have very great trading history amongst themselves. And so we're getting there. And so there is a commendable resurgence now, of course, thanks to CAFTA, which has really awakened all African countries to the fact that, we now need to leverage and, maximize the potentials that trade offers us. There is also a new dawn in Nigeria. We have a government that is putting trade in the front burner. One of the major cardinal objectives of the president is to aspire and make Nigeria a major trading nation. And so many of the big policies that are being undertaken speak to this fact that the government desires Nigeria to take maximum advantage from trade. UNECA figures in 2021-22 indicates that trade is actually decreasing from 14% to 13%, and this is a very big opportunity for all of us to leverage the advantage in the big market offered by CAFTA.
Well, data from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development show that intra-African trade currently accounts for less than 18% of the continent's total trade, compared with almost 68% in Europe or even 59% in Asia. Tariff and non-tariff barriers are to blame. In your opinion, how can Biashara Africa help to solve this situation? Tariff
and non-tariff barriers have very big impediments. There's no doubt about that. But our own experience in Africa, in Nigeria particularly, has indicated that there's still that lukewarm attitude, ignorance about, taking advantage, of the opportunities offered under CAFTA, or what we used to do before under the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme. When we bring small and medium enterprises together, when we have programs with organized private sector, a good number of them are still not aware that there exists this opportunity. I'm not running away from the fact that there are big issues regarding the bureaucratic bottlenecks, the problems encountered by businessmen in our ports, the payment system, which is a very big challenge, possibly the problem of integrity among officials in the ports. These are all issues militating against the growth of intra-African trade. But in the last 1 or 2 years, like I said, we're beginning to see numbers moving in the opposite direction. There is a relative growth in the exports, volume from Nigeria particularly. We are beginning to bring reforms that address the challenges faced by exporters, particularly the small scales. And then the GTI initiative, which Nigeria was not part of before, we've now taken the bold move to step in and take advantage of that. And I'm happy that Nigeria Customs Service, actually played a very active role in driving the process that led us into that. And I'm even happier that 2 of the beneficiaries of this are small-scale industries, and because this is where lies the hope and the power, you know.
Well, under the AFCFTA, customs duties on 90% of liberalized goods will be reduced by 2030 at the latest, and by 7% by 2035. Countries will then be allowed to tax 3% to goods produced. How is Nigeria, which has ratified the agreement, preparing for these changes?
We have some experience in that already. We've been implementing the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme ahead of this. And the experience that we had in the implementation of ETLS perhaps will stand us in a very good stead, you know, to implement this. We are also preparing for that particular period of time when we will be relying less on revenue that we made from importation. For example, we have a new act, the Nigeria Customs Service Act 2023, that has made provision, express provision for the implementation of CAFTA. And by implication, the funding policy, the funding formula for the customs will also have to change. Before now, you know, funding is provided from a percentage of the revenue that customs makes. So now revenue is becoming increasingly de-emphasized. So funding will now come from the costs, the value on board cost, the FOB cost of goods that are imported into Nigeria. So we are quite ready. Our training programs have been done. We're creating sensitization of officers, and we are working very, very closely with our stakeholders to ensure that, you know, we get all hands on deck. Luckily, Customs has been designated as the competent authority for the issuance of certificate of origin, and we've been playing that role. We started with the GTI initiative, and so we are aware of the challenges, and I think we are geared up for them.
As far as ECOWAS is concerned, in order to achieve an ECOWAS of the people and boost intra-regional trade, the Commission of the Sub-Regional Organization is working to link the capitals by fast-track carriageways. I'm getting there. These include the Dakar-Lagos motorway corridor, which will serve the capitals of Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, and Sierra Leone, among others. How will Nigeria benefit from this initiative?
You know, this is going to be an extension of the Lagos-Abidjan corridor, for which Nigeria has been, you know, participating. So Côte d'Ivoire is this next, you know, to Nigeria in terms of size, in terms of volumes, in terms of population. So if you take what we do together with what they do in Côte d'Ivoire, we're responsible for over 70%, you know, of the population and the volume of trade. So if we get it right on that corridor, we would say we'll be getting it right in the sub-region. Now, the intention of this is to extend this beyond Côte d'Ivoire and get it up to Dakar, so, and bring in all the economics in between. So we already have the bigger umbrella of ETLS. In this place, they also have the UMOR, which is already working very, very well. So I believe that, you know, this would be an attempt to build blocks, trading blocks within the bigger blocks, so that, you know, the totality, the aggregation would be a stronger trading bloc within Africa. Between Nigeria and Ghana and Benin, for example, our closest neighbor, we're working very actively. We're engaging the customs administration and the higher authorities of Republic of Benin to ensure that we harmonize our policies. Our systems, our computer systems have achieved a handshake, and we very much believe that once we are able to achieve that, our inroads into UMOR markets, you know, will be very simple. Between Nigeria and Ghana already, historically, we are linked, so there aren't so much issues. So if we are able to achieve these clusters, you know, within the ETLS, I believe it will transform into a stronger ECOWAS, and it will be a very, you know, big stepping platform towards the realization of the continental market itself.
The Nigerian Customs Service announced an outstanding performance in the first quarter of 2024, exceeding revenue targets by a significant margin of 122% for a total of $125 million. So what do we attribute this performance?
Well, it's basically some of the things that I've been talking about. We trying to move from our core mandate of revenue generation. We are addressing issues around trade facilitation. And with trade facilitation, what we're just trying to do is to reduce the time and the cost it takes business in our ports, in our border stations. And what does this do? It helps us to increase turnover. So despite the fact that the devaluation of the national currency has reduced, basically the level of cargo, but the turnover has increased. So this has helped to show, to demystify the fact that all customs administrations must be focused on revenue and revenue only. So we've shown through what we have done in the last 1 year that you can actually eat your cake and have it. So we're doing well according to all the rankings in trade facilitation, and we are happy that it's translating into increased revenue for us. So we hope we'll be able to keep this even in Q3 and Q4. And the way we have currently, we're just about 10% away from the targets for 2024. By the time we finish the year, we're very sure that we'll be swimming home and dry.
Well, Mr. Adewale, thank you very much for sharing all these achievements with Africa 24 English.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gents, here comes the end of this program, but stay tuned to Africa 24 English.
This program was brought to you by the AFCFTA Secretariat on Africa 24.